in turmoil.
Okay, now this was a guilty plea on pointing the gun at his father
That is correct.
which allegedly happened at the same time that your son had been beaten.
That's correct.
Okay, and just for the record, the only witness to this alleged assault was your ex-husband, who had beaten your son and basically said that your son had pointed a gun at him.
And then my sister and I, we were listening on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, we were listening. We were.
Okay, but you would, yeah, okay.
Every time we would call our son, we heard it.
Right, okay. All right, so Lori Shanafield is trying to get your son to plead guilty to this assault of pointing the gun at his father, which, did your son ever deny doing it?
Yeah, even in the police reports to the detective, he let the detective know he had not done that. The detective Myers, Timothy Myers, was really trying to trick my son into admitting that he did something he didn't say. And it bothered me when there were so many inaudibles,
right.
Very important points. But my son was letting him know he had no way in any form would hurt his father. And of course the detective kept trying to force him to say he had.
Right. Now, and just to kind of repeat, this alleged assault of pointing a gun at his father happened 3.5 months after the parking lot incident, which really appears at this point in time to be a bogus felony.
Right.
Okay.
And it was the father who took the son to the detective also for an interview.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, let's kind of get back to Lori Shanafield. You mentioned that your son was upset.
Yes.
He was
traumatized.
Living with your sister at night, and were you still homeschooling him over here?
Yes.
During the day?
They worked it out so my son could be with me all day long. He just could not spend the night at my house.
Okay.
So, and so the change, my son's life has went from a consistent lifestyle and homeschooling, which he was really advancing at, to the shock that he was at my sister's house, in other people's home. That's family, but that's not
right.
His room, his home. Really being pulled away from his mom. He had to go through the trauma of having to go back into the JDF custody, not knowing
right.
what was going to happen to him. But he met with Lori Shanafield, on the November the 17th, and on November 19th, he tried to take his life.
Okay, 2 days later, he tried to take his life. Now,
yes.
Can you be real specific exactly what happened?
Well, you mean how he actually...
Yes.
He took 2 bottles of pills.
He took 2 bottles of pills, and then what happened? Did you find him in his bedroom? Or?
I found him in the hallway.
Okay.
And he just looked like... He looked so strange. He mm-hmm. just looked, his eyes was just glary, and he was breathing, and he started vomiting. Mm-hmm. And of course I'm calling 911, and immediately go to call 911. And I'm running around because I said, what did you do? And I ran downstairs, and I was looking for pill bottles, mm-hmm. and I found some pill bottles downstairs.
Okay, and so they took him to the emergency room?
Yes, they took him to Via Christi.
And how long was he in the emergency room, and did they give him a psych evaluation, or exactly what happened?
I think he was in there probably anywhere between about 5 hours, and then they took him over to the opposite side.
Okay, and did that happen on a Friday?
Yes, that happened on Friday evening.
Okay, now that happened on Friday, and then you and your sister decided that you needed to notify someone in law enforcement or whatever?
Well, yeah, before then, though, the hospital would release him to us. He had the type of insurance that they would release him to us if a screener would come in. And I guess by law or something, the screener has to arrive within 3 hours.
Okay.
And we had a screener that came in from ComCare. I believe that's where she said she was
Do you
from.
remember her name or not?
I have that written down in all the documents, and I can provide you with that. And she interviewed my son, but my son also visited with the doctor on video
Okay.
to the television privately, and then he videoed take me and my sister about the decisions that we could make for my son. And but when the screener came in, she set up a plan and released my son to me and my sister. Mainly to me, and she wanted us to set up the plan that I make sure like we put up all medications, nothing sharp, and that we would guarantee her that he would have 24-hour supervision, and we guaranteed that we would.
Okay,
definitely.
and then, but did your sister call the probation officer?
Yeah, that happened on a Friday night, and Monday my sister called home base, and she called Michelle at home base, and that would be his supervisor, and she had told her what had happened.
And then what did the juvenile authorities do then?
Oh, I got a call from Michelle, and she told me that the probation officer, Matt Ammons, wanted me to get a hold of him immediately.
And then what happened?
I followed her instructions, and I called Matt Ammons.
And was your son put back in incarceration?
Well, what Matt told me that I had to get him over there, and he said I had my choice: either I could bring him in, or he would send somebody out to pick him up. Well, I didn't want. He's already been through that trauma. I didn't want that to happen. My son really didn't want to go, and I said I assured my son it was going to be okay.
Okay, so then your son was back in incarceration.
Yes, in fact, Matt Ammons assured me on the telephone that my son would be able to go directly to the juvenile residential part. He would not be locked up in the JDF area in the cells. And that was not true. My son had 2 nights there, and they had his hearing the next day, and there they brought him in the orange jumpsuit with shackles on his hands and his feet, and that's how they treated someone who I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe people can be that way.
Now, where we're at right now is that Lori Shanafield thought that it was in the best interest of your son to withdraw the appeal, even though the previous court-appointed attorney had filed a motion documenting irregularities during the trial, and the most glaring 2 things in the trial that stood out was the fabricated evidence by the Muvane police on the one hand, and then the absence of a testimony of the eyewitness, the other boy that was present during the alleged carjacking in the school parking lot. And she thought it was in your son's best interest to plead guilty to the assault of pointing a gun at his father, where the only evidence was the assertion that your ex-husband made. And Lori Shanafield did not allow you to be present during any of the sessions that she gave legal counsel to your son. Now, what actually happened? How has this ended? Has your son pled guilty, and when did that occur?
Well, last week Thursday, I went to see my son, and he let me know that they were planning, they meaning Judge Flego, Jonathan Sullivan, Lori Schoenfeld and his father, the accuser and abuser, and Matt Emmons were planning a private hearing, and of course he wasn't supposed to let me know.
Okay, now when you say Thursday, would that have been basically about 8 days ago?
Yes.
Okay, 8 or 9 days ago. Okay. And so you're visiting your son, and this is the first time you heard that there's going to be basically a hearing.
I wasn't invited.
And you were not invited.
No.
And
the whole purpose was to get my son to plead guilty for what his father had done.
okay, now because you visited your son, you found out about the hearing. When did the hearing take place? Last Monday?
They went ahead and had the hearing as planned, and they didn't know I was coming.
So you showed up.
My sister and I, we surprised him, and
Now let's talk about exactly. You knew, or you suspect that there was going to be a hearing because your son had told you about it.
correct.
But did you know where it was? Did you talk to a court guard? How did you actually find out what courtroom it was going to be in?
When we arrived at JDF, we talked to the guards, and we told them we wanted to know what time my son had his hearing that morning, if they would check for us. And the guards at the desk looked at their schedule, and they said he would be here if we were going to have a hearing. He's not scheduled for today. And I said, are you sure? He had just told me that he was going to have a hearing this morning. And he says, well, what you need to do is come on in, and I mean go through the electronic device that checks you, make sure you don't have any weapons or anything. I went through that, and he says, go into the clerk, and she will have all the information. If he has a hearing, she'd be the one to tell you. So I went in, she looked up her schedule. She says, nope, Britton Rader is, sorry, I have to scratch. He is not scheduled for a hearing until Monday, October the 12th. And so I went ahead, and I was perplexed because I know what my son had told me. And I walked back out to my sister, and I told her what she said, and we were sitting in the parking lot, and we said, let's pray. So we started praying, and then I told her, let's go over to the juvenile residential area. So we did, and of course we knew we weren't going to be able to get inside and visit, but we went to the outer door, and I talked to one of the managers over there. I said, is Britton scheduled? Is my son scheduled for a court hearing today? He says, yes, he is at 8:30, and we're going to walk him over there. And I said, okay. So the courts, Judge Flego, prosecutor, Lori Schoenfeld, Matt Emmons, all involved, not one of them
Wanted you there.
wanted me there.
So basically, the only reason why you were able to find out where this hearing would be was because you knew that someone had to escort your son that morning to a courtroom.
Yes, and when I had showed up for that Thursday visit, they even tried to prevent me from seeing my son because out walked his father. And then the lady who supervised the kids, she told me, she said the youth only get one visit, and I couldn't see my son. Well, I was overwhelmed because all this time I've been seeing him regular time, and there happened to be a nice manager, and I know God put him there. I know that was the answer to my prayer.
That's really the only reason why you even knew there was going to be a hearing on Monday, because that
yes.
manager let you talk to your
That's
son.
right. And they were going to block me from that visit. They had it planned. Miss Laura Schoenfeld, and all of them, Judge Flego and Jonathan Sullivan, they all had it, and the father, they all had it planned that they would block my access to my son that night, and I would not be aware of the meeting.
Okay, now you were able to find the court